It's been the hardest, most stressful thing I've ever endured.
You went from one cage fight to another cage.
My deployment to Afghanistan definitely had a pretty big impact on kind of the way I view things.
You've built, from your t-shirt company that you started in the SEAL teams, a multi-million-dollar business.
We've done over 13 million in sales.
And then you have a massive setback.
COVID really just derailed us completely, but I also screwed us and my company. Like, it felt like my house burned down.
For too long, those that have worn the cloth of the country, that have fought and sacrificed for our nation, have been left out of the greatest financial engine the world has ever seen. My service paved the way for my success, and that's true for so many entrepreneurs. In fact, some of the greatest companies were created by veterans. I'm your host, Kaj Larsen, and in each episode, we'll bring you the stories and the wisdom of those who have gone from boots on the ground to successful careers, from military to wealth, and how they've done it, so you can apply those insights to your own mission and life. Welcome to Tactical Wealth, from military to money. If you had to sum up your journey from Navy service to entrepreneurship in one sentence, what would it be?
It's been the most frustrating and stressful and rewarding thing at the same time.
Yeah, I would have said for you, you went from one cage fight to another cage fight.
Yeah.
Awesome. And is there a moment that sticks out from your time in the teams that shaped how you see the world?
I would say my deployment to Afghanistan definitely had a pretty big impact on kind of the way I view things, and the world kind of made me start to question a little bit of the military-industrial complex and all that. And then, COVID kind of solidified that.
Yeah.
And I kind of think, looking back at it afterwards, kind of, things made sense.
Yeah, and I know you well enough to summarize that and say that the seeds of your questioning of conventional wisdom were sort of started in Afghanistan, and then later on manifested themselves throughout your entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah.
Fair? Okay, but let's scale back for a second and where are you from? How did you come to the SEAL teams? Give me a little bit about your service.
I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia originally, so actually born and raised there.
Did you know what SEALs were growing up?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, no,
and that's crazy because half of our SEAL teams are in Virginia Beach.
Well, what's even crazier than that was my mom and dad were both in the Navy, and my dad was a combat cameraman attached with the SEAL teams.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know this. Okay, so you didn't know about the SEAL teams.
Nope.
So how did you end up in the SEAL teams? You're one of those guys who went through Bud's young, right?
Yeah, I went through right out of high school, and I had no intentions of joining the military whatsoever. Was my dad more so pushed me to, hey, you should look at the military, and I was just like, no, not interested. I didn't know what I wanted to do, honestly. I always enjoyed entrepreneurship. At a very early age, even 5th grade, I was cutting grass, going door to door, cutting grass. And I liked making money, and, making $100 a day as a 5th grader. That's pretty good money. You don't have very low overhead. So it's very cushy life, and ice cream truck rolls around, $1 a popsicle, get all your friends. That's just 1 yard. I could feed all my friends popsicles. And, that was just, I really enjoyed that type of lifestyle from an early age, and so I was always interested in making money. That was kind of what I was more interested in. My dad, was in the military and was kind of always pushing that. Didn't want to do that. Fast forward, in high school, I had a couple different jobs. I was a roofer on the weekends. I roofed from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I also was a lifeguard at Kalahari, which is the world's largest indoor water park. And I was a surf instructor and the flow rider, and which is like the artificial wave.
When you're from Santa Cruz, we don't call that surfing, but I get
it.
Yeah.
But in Ohio, that's as good as it gets out there. So in high school, that's where I was. And then I also helped my mom and my stepdad. They had a gas station deli convenience store. and I worked there as well. And when I graduated, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do exactly. And like I said, both of my parents were in the military, so I knew of that as an option. I knew that there were benefits to joining the military and seeing the world and stuff like that. And I moved around a lot as a kid. I probably went to, maybe 7 or 8 different schools. So I lived in, 3-4 different states, which is a lot for a kid. But it made me very much used to traveling. It kind of got me not afraid of change, and to go somewhere else and see new things and try new things and do new things, meet new people, which is very good for the military too. So I wasn't afraid of that aspect of it, and I was like, you know what? I'm kind of bored. I don't know what I want to do exactly. I know for sure I don't want to go to college. So why don't I join the military and just give it a shot.
And you picked Navy because of your dad?
No, a Navy recruiter happened to come in and to my mom's store one day when we were there working, and he was like, "Hey, you look, you want to join the Navy?"
Yeah.
And I was like, and again, I just graduated, wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I
still true today.
No, yeah. And so,
what about swimming? Like, what was your athletic? Did you wrestle?
No, I didn't wrestle.
What BUD/S class did you go through?
273.
Nice. And you first time straight through, no injuries?
No. I started off with 271, and then admin rolled to 272. Then got rolled in first phase 273, and then went straight through.
Yeah. And did you find did you attack BUD/S the way you attack other things?
Yeah. So after I watched the 234 documentary, it was like, okay, this is a totally different beast, and even that documentary, it's a 6-hour documentary. The majority of it spent on Hell Week, and so it's very sugar coated is what I'm going to say. Even though it gives you a very good idea of what to sort of expect, it's still like a monstrously long school that's condensed down into a 6-hour documentary. So, but it gives you a very good idea of kind of what to prep for somewhat, or what to expect. And Hell Week, for those that don't know, especially, you start on Sunday afternoon, and you go till the following Friday afternoon, and you get a 2-hour nap on Wednesday, a 1-hour nap on Thursday. And other than that, you are balls to the wall, going nonstop. You run over 100 miles. We have a 200-pound inflatable boat on your head that absolutely sucks and rubs your head bald. You do 3-hour log PTs, which is a telephone pole between you and 5 or 6 other guys, and
it's miserable.
Yeah, it's the hardest military training on the planet. So seeing that and kind of like watching people go through it and on the documentary and everything, and it was just wild, So I had to really kind of obsess over it and go all in.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is one of the things I love about you, and which I find in elite SEALs, is you have a real ability to flip the switch. You have a killer instinct, whether you're fighting, mm-hmm. right? Whether we're talking about a business idea, you can flip the switch and you execute hard. Where does that come from? Was it present in BUD/S? Was it present in the SEAL teams?
Yeah, it definitely was, and I think it's kind of. Maybe like my ADD almost or something. I don't know. Because if I'm not interested, I'm really not interested. And if I'm interested, I'm very interested. And I get obsessive with things we're working on this project, and I get excited thinking about it. I'm very much like a visionary. I have tons of ideas, and I love to create them and bring them to life in that sense. But in a challenge, when it consumes my mind, I just want to get it done. I want to go all in.
Were you doing any business when you were in the SEAL team? You have any in the SEAL teams? You had any side
I
hustles?
started MASF apparel.
You did start it when you were in the SEAL teams,
yeah.
But it wasn't supplements then?
Nope, it was just apparel when I was in the teams.
Okay, and why did you start that?
Because I was fighting, and I was,
So you started fighting in the teams?
Yeah,
I
was fighting just for fun on the weekends. Just because I've always enjoyed fighting. I've always enjoyed the competitiveness of it. And I've always been very protective, growing up my whole life of my little brother. And then in the SEAL teams, that carried over to my brothers in the SEAL teams. When we would go out, I have everyone's back. Like, you don't have to worry if I'm with you, for sure. And so that was, I enjoyed that. I started doing jujitsu and, competing in jujitsu, and that led into MMA. Started fighting competitively with that. And then started, very quickly, I, had a lot of success in MMA, started gaining a lot of popularity, became a champion very quickly. And then all of a sudden I had opportunities to make money from sponsors. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. And then I figured out, well, I can approach all these sponsors and say, hey, if you give me X amount of money, I'll put your logo on 100 different shirts that I'm going to print as my walkout shirt, and that all my supporters can purchase and wear to my fights and everything. And so it was a way I could kind of make money. I could, get the money from the sponsorships. I could get money from selling the shirts. I could get money from selling my tickets to my fights. So as an amateur, I was making, almost $5,000 a fight.
Yeah.
So then it became like a business on the side where I was like, oh, well, I was fighting just for fun, but now I can actually make money on it. And then, so once I started doing that, I had all these people buying the shirts from me, and I was like, oh man, this is cool. Like, it's cool seeing that. And I started the Instagram, as a way to also promote and give back to the sponsors and all that.
So that was really your first marketing initiative, was your Instagram.
Yep, yeah.
I think the genesis is really important. You started it while you're an active duty Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
You're fighting on the weekends as an MMA fighter. One of the things that happens when people create businesses and stuff is they often see like a gap in the market, a hole in the market. It sounds like in this case you didn't see a hole in the market.
No.
Yeah, you just said like, hey, I'm monetizing, and here's how I can supersize a revenue stream.
So I was in credit card debt when I was in the SEAL teams, because the lifestyle is just very dangerous. The job is very dangerous, and once I got in the SEAL teams, I was like, okay, well, I guess this is what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna just do this for 20 years, and every 4 years or so, you get a re-enlistment bonus, a tax-free big bonus. At the time, it was a $90,000 or $100,000 bonus, and that I had to essentially look forward to every 4 years. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to get a credit card and, get whatever I want and live however I want.
And what were you buying?
Now, just whatever. Like hardwood floors, whatever, anything I wanted at the time. Yeah. Like, I would just get it on a credit card, put it on my credit card, and then eventually when I'd go get my bonus, I'll just pay it off then. Not the greatest financial advice.
No.
But I was like, I could die at any day.
I think there's a psychological thing. We've pinged around it with talking to different folks who've been in the military and stuff, and it's hard to explain a little bit, but there is this culture maybe it's an internal feeling. You're like, fuck it. Like, this could be the end. Like, I skydive 3 times a week.
Exactly.
Right? My parachute couldn't open. Like, I'm getting
You're around a lot of
Afghanistan.
death.
Yeah,
you're around a lot of death, and it's
hard to imagine your life past 35 because there is not a zero probability that you're not going to make it. So I think, and the culture is just more spendy than savvy.
Oh, for sure. I mean, for me, it was literally. Many times I had to tell myself, just don't be a pussy, and just go, and I'd rather die than be a pussy and jump out of the plane or go through the door or whatever it is, and we're around a lot of death. So guys we know, that's I knew that guy, and now he's dead. And so it's why do I care about saving money or not getting this thing that's going to bring me enjoyment? And I'm all about living my life. I can't take anything with me when I go. I don't care if I die with $0 in my bank account. Still to this day, I don't care.
So here you are, you've built this budding business, and it's growing. And then ultimately you get out of the SEAL teams. Was the decision to get out of the SEAL teams was to pursue MASF full time?
Yeah. So originally I didn't want to get out of the SEAL teams. I didn't plan on it. I planned on staying in for 20, and I was just fighting for fun on the weekends. But like I said, I gained a lot of popularity from it, and I was ranked number 1 on the East Coast in 2 different weight classes at the same time. So I was ranked number 1 at 170 and 185. I was a champion at both, and was getting a lot of attention. And I was selling a lot of shirts, and that's when I launched my actual apparel company. I was just selling the Smash and Frog t-shirts, but then I was like, you know what? Like, nobody's going to wear these shirts like every day. Like, so why don't I put some like motivational stuff on a nice t-shirt? And I'm like kind of a t-shirt snob myself. So I was like, man, I could just make some cool shirts. And I did. I made 30 shirts and just was like, I'm going to see how it goes. And I think at the time I only had like 5,000 followers, and they sold out instantly. And I was like, whoa, that's cool. And I was like, let me try that again. They got 60 shirts, boom, all sold out right away.
That's called product market fit. It means essentially that there's massive demand for the thing that you have created, right? And it's what you found ultimately with Smashing Greens in the beginning. It's when there's a line outside your door that people or customers are lining up to actually buy something. Product market fit.
Yeah. So, and I was living paycheck to paycheck in the SEAL teams. Like, I was living paycheck to paycheck. I did all the same. I bought a car, I bought a motorcycle, and I was in debt, and I was just like, I don't care. I have enough money to pay my bills, and like in 4 years I'll get a bonus and I'll pay off my credit cards, and I'll just keep doing that.
Now all of a sudden your side hustle's picking up.
Yeah.
You get out of the teams, you're selling t-shirts. How do you make the
Well, I didn't even get out of the teams. I was still selling t-shirts, but then like I realized the power of the social media, and like I said, I made, $25 for every shirt I sold. So when even if I sold 4 shirts a day, I'm making an extra $100 a day, which to me, I was like, well, that's pretty crazy. I can just keep doing this. And I wanted to stay in the SEAL teams and just keep doing what I was doing, keep fighting and all that. But it became like a conflict, because at that time, that was like 2017, I want to say. And social media wasn't as acceptable, or wasn't as like, not everybody had it, and especially in the SEAL teams. So, I was getting a ton of hate from other SEALs and stuff for having a social media, even though I wasn't posting anything like about like the job and like operational, or nothing about tactics, none of that. I was just posting like my fighting and, who I was as a person outside of the SEAL teams. I was also like, I never struggled with like my identity and stuff like that. So it was just like, I was a SEAL. This was my job. I looked at it as a job. It didn't define me.
Yeah.
So
talk to me what happens when you get out and you decide to go all in on the business.
Yeah. So I ended up, realizing how much potential was on the outside and how much money I could make on the outside of the SEAL teams, and like going all in with my business. So I was like, you know what? The SEAL teams are holding me back essentially. I'm going to go get out and just go all in with this.
Yeah, and let's be clear, you did the job. You did the platoon.
Yeah.
Like you deployed to Afghanistan.
I did 10 years.
You did 10 years
in the teams.
Combat.
So for me, I was like, I'm ready for a new chapter anyway. Like, I could do this 20 years, but I'm also like, I realize there's a big world out there.
So you get out, there's this booming business. I want to get to the point where you go from t-shirts to new product lines.
Okay. So I was doing all the t-shirts and stuff like that. And I did about 150,000 in sales, in t-shirt sales my first year. And I thought that was great. And like, and I was like, wow, okay, I just want to keep making shirt designs, all that stuff. And, what had happened was I was really focusing on creating content every day and just trying to be consistent with that. And I didn't have anything to post one day. So I was just like looking around like, what can I post? And I posted my little concoction of my greens powders. And I was like, this is what I drink every morning. And I said, this is also what I do. Like, I fast with this to cut weight for my fights. And everybody was like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, cause I look, my physique is like shredded and everything. And people are constantly asking me for workout advice or my diet and this and that. And I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, this is just something to post.
Yeah.
And people were like bombarding me with questions nonstop for like a year and a half.
Right.
And I didn't even think like to make it a business or anything. I just, it was helping people lose weight and stuff. I listed all the products and said like, made it as idiot proof as I could. And I said, here's all the products, go get it, do 1 scoop of each, blah, blah, blah. And no matter how much I explained it, it was still just questions nonstop. And I was like, out of pure annoyance and frustration, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to like go to a manufacturer or something and say, can you just take these 7 different products and make it into one thing and have it be 1 scoop for a serving and just simplify it?
Is that many of the great businesses in the world start with this pain point, right? And your pain point was that you had to both cut weight for fighting in order to make weight, but still stay strong. So you came up with this like innovative widget, right? Your smashing greens powder, right? In order to help solve this pain point. And then you found through market research, right? If we were going to academize your journey, you found through market research, i.e. DMs, sliding into your DMs, that all of a sudden there was a product market fit that people really cared about this.
I really it didn't even dawn on me even then. It was because it was taking up so much of my time answering people in their questions. And I really tried to answer as many people that wrote me and stuff. 'Cause I really appreciated people supporting me in my t-shirt side, So I was really trying to be active and, responsive to people and their questions. And I liked that it was helping people push themselves and lose weight. And, I'm all about that. So I was like, all right, I'm answering people's questions, but it was taking a lot of my time, and I'm not sponsored by any of these companies. There's no way for me to monetize this, So out of pure annoyance, I was like, you know what? I'll make my own product. And I was like, oh, cool. Maybe I'll sell a couple. I didn't think anything of it. And then when I actually made them, and my supporters were calling the concoction the Smashing Greens because I was the Smashing Frog. So they had already named it, and they were calling that the Smashing Greens. And so then when I made the product, I didn't think anything of it. And I posted it and said, here, the Smashing Greens are a thing. Go buy them. And I thought, yeah, I'll sell a couple, whatever. But then I had the idea to do the integrity challenge, which since I had done this so many times and I had cut weight so many times using my greens, I knew that it would work. And I knew that everyone would probably have a similar experience, like if they could mentally handle it. And my whole thing was mindset is everything. Like my whole thing was pushing yourself. And, so I said, hey, I just made this challenge up. And I said, hey, if you go on my website, buy my product, which was $100 for the 30 servings of the greens. I said, if you go on my website, you buy my greens, and you do a 10-day fast using my greens, and you do a before picture and an after picture and daily weigh-ins on your story so that I can see that you're consistently losing weight. If you lose 15 pounds, I'll give you your money back for the product. I'll give you $100 cash and a $100 gift card to my website. And I said, so you have nothing to lose but weight. And I didn't put like a limit on it or anything. And at the time I had like 70,000 followers. And I remember I had like 1,000 like jugs of greens or whatever. And I remember like my mom and everyone was like freaking out, like, what are you doing? You can't afford that. Like, and I was like, listen, I hope everybody does it. And I was like, because what I think is going to happen is it's going to show that
it works.
It works.
Yeah. And how many people
more people are going to do it? I don't remember. We did like 115,000 in sales in a week.
That's insane.
And I was like, oh my God, I hit the lottery. Because no one in my family I don't come from money. No one in my family has money. Like I lived in a single wide trailer with 5 people, like no one in my family has any money. So getting that, like 115,000 was like, I literally just hit the lottery. Like I don't even know what to do right now.
That's crazy. At its peak, how big did you scale this business?
Our our best month, we did 550,000
in sales.
in sales.
Huge. You've built from your t-shirt company that you started in the SEAL teams, a multi-million-dollar business, a $10,000,000 business.
We've done over 13 million in sales.
And then you have a massive, massive setback from the peak to the trough. Just tell me quickly what happened.
Yeah. So, so basically during COVID, everything was crushing. We were doing great. COVID really just derailed us completely. Not just COVID, like COVID itself had derailed a lot of people because of supply chains and all that stuff. That was a major part of the derailing. But myself, I also, really screwed us and my company because I took a stance against the vaccine mandate. So I had almost 400,000 followers at the time. I had built my page from nothing, organically. I had a very engaged audience. I had a very supportive audience, all of my sales directly, and to reiterate, like all the sales that we did, I paid $0 for marketing. It was all from my Instagram. It was all organic.
You had a single marketing channel. You come out with a very public and a very controversial position at a time when people, and you get, drum roll please, deplatformed.
Yep.
Super deplatformed.
Mark Zuckerberg deleted my Instagram, and it deleted my Instagram, and
your sales went from what
over
to what?
90% of my sales, 95% of my sales came directly from my Instagram.
Right. So you lost 90% of the revenue in the company basically overnight.
Yeah. Like it felt like my house burned down, like I just lost everything. And it was just wild.
And I will tell the end of the story in the interest of time. The end of the story is then, like the fighter that you are, you have been scrapping back for 4 years to win the decision, right?
Yeah.
and it's been a cage fight, right? To crawl your way back.
It's been the hardest, most stressful thing I've ever endured, for sure. And like, if I didn't have, all of the experience, I would say, in overcoming adversity or just enduring it, I think I would have given up a long time ago. I mean, this is by far. I was way less stressed in gunfights in Afghanistan and walking through minefields. Way less stressed.
That's a theme we hear. After 4 long years, it's basically been 4 years since you lost that marketing channel. You have sharpened the knife as a CEO and an entrepreneur. You have launched a new business line, right? We're drinking it right now, right?
Yeah.
You launched energy drinks, right? You have diversified all of your marketing channels. You've done new strategic partnerships. You've taken on strategic investment, and you have rebuilt the business that you lost, right? But I have two questions for you. One, like at those low moments, like what is it that like allowed you to keep going? Because I mean, like there's a point where you could have just folded the whole thing, right, and walked away.
I don't know. I think just stubbornness and like just the will to fight. Like I'm not a quitter, and I don't. It's just like failure's not an option, sort of thing. And just like buds, I don't care. I'm gonna die trying.
Yeah. But failure is not an option. Doesn't mean necessarily that you keep doing the same thing and you keep charging the same hill, right? It might mean that you pivot. It might mean
you
that
have to.
Right. What are your lessons learned as a CEO from this incredible roller coaster that you've been on? Like for other CEOs, like how do you feel now about taking a public stance about controversial positions?
Well, it's funny you say that because there are controversial, things that I'm kind of staying out of because I saw what it got me. It got me nowhere and didn't really, I know it did help certain people. Like I've had people write me and say, hey, you encouraged me or, to stand up for myself or whatever. I didn't get the vaccine or I'm really happy about that or whatever it is, which is great and all. But like at the end of the day, I think I just hurt myself, and not saying I'm happy, I guess, that I said what I said, but I think, there are issues right now that I'm just kind of like, you know what, I don't need to voice my opinion. There's lots of other people that are, and maybe they're in a better place too. And so I'm just kind of being more tactical about it.
You're an unbelievable example of somebody who's really like walked through the fire, walked over the coals of entrepreneurship. If there's other, veterans or even active duty guys who are going to be transitioning out, who are thinking about starting a business, what's one thing you want them to know about like how to start?
Well, I want you to have confidence in yourself, and like one good thing about the military is it does put you in positions, like the military forces you to have responsibility and do things where it's like you can't just decide not to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it, and you're used to that structure. You're used to that discipline of like just doing it. You can follow orders, get things done, whatever. It sets you up pretty well to work in the outside world in any job. So I would say if you're on the fence or thinking about like getting out, or am I going to be successful in the civilian world, I would say you absolutely are, and you're going to absolutely have an advantage over a lot of civilians that don't have that experience or that structure and aren't used to that stuff, and especially SEALs. I will just say you will absolutely excel in anything that you do, just because you are used to giving so much more effort and your standards are so much higher than the civilian world is used to. So don't be afraid to just get out and do it.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey, from the battlefield to the business world, from the cage to corporate offices. I do think that your story is a testament to perseverance, to grit, to the kind of person who would never, ever ring that bell. I have watched you like come back from the troughs of this. And as your friend, and just as an outside observer, it's extraordinary to watch like all the blows. It kind of reminds me of like when you went down and fought Sean Strickland and sparred with him. No matter how many times you got hit.
That's a great analogy for my entrepreneur life.
It is. No matter how many times you got hit, you just kept going. So for everyone who's listening today, please, my friend Mitch is a stellar example of one of the strongest people I know, not just in his body, but in his mentality and his mindset. You stay true to your values. You use your gifts to make a real impact. You didn't get it from the podcast today. He's also one of the most generous people I know. It's an honor to call him a friend. Thank you, everybody, for locking in with us today. We'll be back with another guest soon. And until then, stay tactical, stay driven, and smash those greens. Hey, thanks again for locking in with us today. I hope this episode stimulated the old brain housing unit. Step one to becoming richer is becoming smarter. And I hope some of the lessons and ideas from today have sharpened your knife. As always, I hope you're taking notes, but more importantly, that you're taking action. Thanks again to Siebert.Valor and Siebert Financial for the support. And remember, stay tactical, stay driven, and don't forget to bang that subscribe button. Hope some of the lessons and ideas from today have sharpened your knife. As always, I hope you're taking notes, but more importantly, that you're taking action. Thanks again to Siebert.Valor and Siebert Financial for the support. And remember, stay tactical, stay driven, and don't forget to bang that subscribe button.